Ryder. He may not be a brigadier, but we'll just say the Pentagon press secretary. He looks worried when they're starting to question him about the drones. And we're going to listen to this. He's Air Force active duty officer. But we're going to look at that press briefing that happened. It was yesterday. I don't know if you watched it, but we do have a Pentagon playlist on here. I'm going to put this in the, I went to the wrong thing. I'm going to put it on the Pentagon playlist. And he's the press secretary. So we're going to watch him as he walks in here. You just tuning in. We want to hear what the Pentagon has to say about these drones in the sky. And I'd rather it be extraterrestrials. I really would. I don't want it to be China. I don't want it to be some kind of foreign enemy. I don't want it to be a domestic terrorism from a foreign nation within this country. And I know a lot of other people don't want it to be like that either. So welcome, and try to get him on here. Come on. We're going to get him coming. Going to get him coming and going on. What is going on with this thing? Does not. Okay, here we go.
All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. Just a few things here at the top, and then we'll get right to your questions.
So you heard the people.
I mentioned it briefly yesterday at the off-camera briefing, so I'd like to just provide a quick readout of Secretary Austin's phone call with Qatar's newly appointed Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of State for Defense Affairs, His Excellency Territory in Sana'a, Yemen. Per U.S. Central Command's press release, the targeted facility was a hub for coordinating Houthi operations, such as attacks against U.S. Navy warships and merchant vessels in the southern Red Sea and Gulf of Aden. The strike reflects CENTCOM's ongoing...
Hello there, Magneto. Sounds like it started when they saw the reaction to the other balloon earlier this year. He just now mentioned the Gulf of Aden, and the Gulf of Aden is a place where it is rumored to have a large alien base underneath there, and that is where the portal, the spiral, had opened up in the sky, and that's when all these ships from around the world, from all the armies around the world, started patrolling this area around there. The Gulf of Aden is known for paranormal activity. Hello, Judy. Y'all welcome. I want to see what he had to say about that. I better back it up. Let's see. We're going to do Brigadier General.
Houthi operations,
okay,
such as attacks against U.S. Navy warships and merchant vessels in the southern Red Sea and Gulf of Aden. The strike reflects CENTCOM's ongoing commitment to protect U.S. and coalition personnel, regional partners, and international shipping. I would refer you to U.S. Central Command for further questions. Finally, a quick update on the transition process. Yesterday, the department's transition director, Ms. Jennifer Walsh, and representatives from the Office of the General Counsel, Washington Headquarters, Services Security Office, and the DoD Transition Task Force met with 11 members of President-elect Trump's Agency Review Team, or ART, here in the Pentagon. In accordance with standard practice, the ART members signed non-disclosure agreements and discussed security procedures, including information security and next steps for transition efforts.
So Trump's team met with them, and they had to sign a non-disclosure. This was yesterday. Then all of a sudden today, the stock market's down like 1,100 points. They want to pass this bill, $895,000, $1 billion bill, and Elon Musk is threatening anyone who supports that, you will probably lose your job in 2 years. They got some information. You know they told them that. Let's listen to him. Come on, Brigadier General Pat Ryder.
DoD officials also showed the ART members dedicated office spaces here in the Pentagon that have been reserved for their use.
Let me, I can't hardly hear him. He is nervous. I've not seen him nervous like this, even though he's reading. He normally does read, but I can feel an air of nervousness in his voice. There's hardly anybody in this chat. Hello, Robbie, Faxaviri. Yeah, we got 94 people watching and maybe 6 people in the chat. What's up with that? Okay, let's listen to him. I want to hear what he got to say.
Specific questions about the ART team, I would refer you to the President-elect's transition team. We'll continue to provide updates on the transition efforts within the department as they become available and remain focused on ensuring a smooth, orderly, and professional transition. And with that, let's take your questions. Go to AP. Tara.
Thanks, General Ryder. So back to the drones. Can you unequivocally say that none of the drones that are being spotted are DoD assets or something that's being tested within the Defense Department? Are all of these either civilian or otherwise, but just not Department of Defense drones?
You're talking about the drones in New Jersey up and down the, yes, they are not DoD assets.
None of them are.
To my knowledge, none of them are.
Okay, and are there any sort of experimental programs going on where maybe drones are being tested that?
To my knowledge, no.
Okay. What about the ones that are flying over military bases at this point? Have there been any possibilities of collecting what sort of information these drones are doing or anything like that?
Yeah, again, just to kind of put this into context, and I know that our colleagues at the White House, FAA, DHS, FBI have all made this point. So over 1 million drones registered in the United States, and on any given day, approximately 8,500 drones are, in flight. And so the vast majority of these drones are going to probably be recreational or hobbyist. They're going to be commercial drones, used in things like architecture, engineering, farming, or they could be used for law enforcement. Is it possible that some of those drones could be up to malign activity? It's entirely possible, but the vast majority, that is not, the case. In the case of drones flying near or over U.S. military installations, that in and of itself, just given the volume of drone flights we see on a given day, is not something that's new. We take all of those seriously. We will typically, when we detect them, attempt to classify them and take appropriate measures. Is it possible that some of those are surveilling? Absolutely. But can you make that assumption in every case? Not necessarily. So in each case, commanders have the authority, installation commanders and authorities have the authority to respond appropriately, and will continue to do that.
Everyone knows if you're flying a drone, you do not fly it over a military base. And if there's hobbyists and stuff, they're not going to fly it over a military base. The military will pick up its signature. No, see, he's not telling the truth. He's not telling the truth right there. He's piercing his lips. Look at that. He is tight-lipped. He's piercing his lips. No, they know what's going on, and they dare not make a move.
Just one other topic, Ukraine. Did the U.S. have any role at all, either providing intelligence or otherwise, in what looks like a targeted killing of the Russian general?
Yeah, I can tell you we were not aware of this operation in advance. We do not support or enable those kinds of activities. I've seen the reports. Don't really have any information to provide other than what I've seen in the press, and so I'd have to refer you to the Ukrainians on that.
Pat, last year, U.S. Transcom and U.S. Air Mobility Command signed an agreement with a group called the National Aerospace Research and Technology Park. This is in Atlantic County, New Jersey, and the agreement was to create a test and evaluation corridor for UASs, unmanned aerial systems, and advanced air mobility. Is it possible that these drones that are being seen in New Jersey are part of that corridor that was created a year ago to test these kind of drones and unmanned systems?
Yeah, and I know you're not going to be surprised by this, but I've had some of your other colleagues reference that press release. I did check with the Joint Staff to see if that was possible, and again, received confirmation, no military operations, no military drone or experiment operations in this corridor.
Thanks, Pat. Going back to Russia, the general who was assassinated in Moscow, how significant is that? Do you think that's going to change Russia's calculus at all in the war with Ukraine? And what comments do you have on the accusations that he was responsible for the use of chemical weapons in Ukraine?
I'd refer you to Russia to talk about the potential impact. Again, I won't speak for Ukraine. Clearly, this is a senior commander within the Russian military overseeing significant capabilities. But again, like I highlighted, we're aware of those reports, looking into them, but that's about all I'm going to have. So, Warren.
On drones for a second, what was the thinking behind sending additional detect and track systems to Picatinny Arsenal and Naval Weapons Station Earl? And are there other facilities that might get more of these systems in the future?
Yeah, so a couple things. So first of all, again, a lot of focus on this right now for all the obvious reasons, some of which includes those sitting in this room here. And so we're going to take this seriously. And so ensuring that installations, in this case, Picatinny and Earl, have the capabilities they need to detect, to identify and track as appropriate in the event there's drone activity near those facilities. To your other question, this is exactly what the counter unmanned systems strategy that DoD put out recently talks about, is looking at what are those priority installations, what are the trends when it comes to unmanned systems or unmanned aerial systems as well, and what does the DoD need to be doing in order to address that issue, particularly when it poses a potential threat to our personnel or installations. The thing is that I think we've all recognized the fact that unmanned systems are here to stay. They're a part of modern warfare, and whether it's here in the homeland or overseas, we want to make sure that we're doing due diligence to protect our forces and protect our equities from a national security standpoint. So, I think you'll see us continuing to look at that, and it's something we're going to continue to take seriously.
What systems are being sent and when will they arrive?
In addition to some of the capabilities that are already on these installations, these capabilities essentially will enhance Space Authority's ability to detect, identify, track UASs. So, for example, this could include active or passive detection capabilities, plus capabilities like the system known as Drone Busters, which, as you know, employs non-kinetic means to interrupt drone signals, affect their ability to operate. All right, Kelly.
You mentioned that it wasn't all that unusual to see some drones over military bases. You mentioned this is becoming...
That's not true. It's very unusual. You don't fly over a military base. Yeah, they're here to stay. Remember Elon Musk a long time ago? He was sitting down with a general or a colonel in the Air Force who had a fighter squadron or something. He said, in the future, you will not be needed. He told them that. And we showed that in a live video. You will not be needed. They will fly themselves. And that general got really worried. But that's what he told him point blank. You will not be needed. You will not need fighter personnel to fly these planes. They will all be automated. Yeah, the military will be like AI. AI will have control of the weapon systems. And we did a video on that too when they were asking the panel that they formed, the UAP, I think it was a couple years ago, who will have the final say-so before you push that button and start a nuclear war? Is there going to be a human at the end of that? Oh, yeah, well, the human will, but AI will decide which targets to shoot, but the human will have the last say-so. War with robots. Namaste. Abatala Arcturus. Yes, there's... Yeah, they're not going to say it. They're going to say it. I'm not.
more and more of a common occurrence in the use of drones. But what would constitute it as a threat? What is the benchmark, and have you been communicating with other military installations to be ready for more of these drones, and how to spot if it could be a threat before it might be too late?
Yeah. Again,
You know what's really important about this Pentagon press briefing? They got all the professional news people in this one. All the other ones, they had the low key people from the press, except for the one guy who had the eyes like that. He's always there. I think he's alien. I really do. The one guy had his eyes like that with the dark brown hair. But all these other people, they're the big players in the press, and now they're on.
And, you know, it won't surprise you. This is not a new conversation for us within DoD. I mean, as I highlighted, drones flying, whether here or overseas, is not something new, right? And especially in the United States with 1 million registered drones and 8,500 flying on any given day. Similar to vehicles that may inadvertently approach a base, the same can be true for drones. As to what constitute a threat, that obviously has to be assessed on a case-by-case basis, depending on what the drone is doing, where it's going, you know.
No, see. If you're trying to go up to a base and you're trying to get on it and you don't have a government-issued ID, first of all, they're going to check your ID as you get near the gate. Then they're going to check it again. And at times, they're going to have these devices they stick under your car with the big poles, like a big floor sweeper. They're gonna check all underneath your car and stuff. They do that to active duty also at times when their threat level is high. And then they'll physically search your car. You're not going to be able to even get in the gate if you don't have a military pass. If you do not have a reason for being on that base, you will not be allowed in. They may say, well, you can go to the visitor center and state your reason. And if it ain't going to do them no good, it's still not on the base. And if they don't want to give them a visitor's pass, they're not going to get one. Even when my husband was in the military, we wanted to go on, what Air Force base was it that has the B-1 bombers? Can't remember which one it was, but that was really hard for even us to get onto that base. It was, because it's so top secret. It was a Davis Monthan or something like that. Yeah, almost like they're trying to provoke. You'll be prepping. I would prep. I would absolutely prep. They're not, I promise you, they're not going to let some unknown drone fly in the space above. That is a direct threat. You're intruding upon it. It's like letting a car drive straight through a base, past the guards. No, if it's not okay for a person in their car who don't have a military ID to go straight through and it's not an open base. It's not. And it's not open airspace above that base. Yeah, so he's not being truthful. He's not. He's trying to play it safe.
And so I'm not going to provide a blanket definition, but again, the idea here is that by providing training, capabilities, resources, commanders are able to assess and make those determinations. The other thing that I think it's very important to remember is that when we're here in the homeland, the authorities that the U.S. military has to detect and track these kinds of things is much different than it would be if we were in a combat zone. In other words, the intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance capabilities that we can employ outside the United States are much different for very good reasons. We don't collect intelligence on American citizens. And so that, of course, appropriately requires to work very.
Yes, they do. They do. Maybe not directly, but indirectly. The NSA.
Very closely with local, state, and federal authorities, law enforcement authorities, when necessary to address these threats.
And you mentioned the White House and the administration did share a bit of their assessment of what these drones are, but we know lawmakers are being briefed on Capitol Hill and members of the public. This isn't really, sitting well with them. They aren't really kind of taking this explanation for those that really saw these drones with their own eyes. So what would you say to them?
Well, again, I definitely don't want to minimize the significant interest and the concern that people have. But again, I think in the way that you now have this modern technology and the ability, you could go out of here right after this briefing and go and buy a drone and you could fly it around your neighborhood. And as long as you're flying it appropriately and not in restricted airspace, there's nothing illegal about flying that drone. So again, just providing some perspective here. And I think, the joint statement that we put out highlighted that the assessment in terms of what these reported sightings could be in terms of a combination of lawful commercial drones, hobbyist drones, law enforcement drones, as well as manned fixed-wing aircraft. Again, don't want to minimize it, but I think it's important to understand too, just the volume of drone.
You're right, Bernadine. He is under orders, and he never really spends a lot of time explaining the way that he's explaining. But he's just giving them basic responses. He looks tired in his eyes. Look at him. He looks very tired. He looks exhausted. And he normally has blue eyes. He does. But he has this is probably AI generated, but I wouldn't stake my life on it. But he normally has blue eyes.
Activity that will likely only increase into the future, and the fact that it is legal to fly drones. And if
The drones are going to likely increase in the future. It will. It will.
they go into restricted airspace, of course, we'll take appropriate action.
Just, why does it have to be a classified briefing if these are just hobbyist drones, they're not military drones? Why is it a classified briefing on the Capitol Hill?
I'd have to refer you to Congress on that. Again, sharing as much information as we can here. I don't have the briefing in front of me, so I can't tell you specifically, what aspects are classified or not. I can assure you, though, that again, we are sharing as much information as we can based on what we know. Let me go to the other side of the room here. Chris.
Thanks, Pat. Two questions on drones. One, there's particular interest perhaps by us, but also from the U.S. government regarding the drones in New Jersey. Does the Pentagon have any indications that those drones in New Jersey are somehow different in size, activity, etc., than the drones that have been spotted at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Hill Air Force Base, and other locations in the past few days?
Chris, what I would tell you is we don't see a connection at this point between any of those activities. Again, just taking a step back here, 8,500 drone flights a day. But again, don't see a connection at this stage.
And then my second question, has the Pentagon determined who was responsible for the drone incursions over the bases in the UK over the past month?
Yeah, to my knowledge.
Did you hear that? Has the Pentagon found out who's responsible for the drones over the bases in the UK? If you're in the United Kingdom, are y'all got drones flying over your military bases too? He's only allowed to say what he's allowed to say. You can only say so much. You have to follow orders. They're all around the globe. For them to be around military installations, why is China always the culprit, though? Okay, remember when John Fitzgerald Kennedy was around and he gave his speech at the United Nations, and he called for nuclear disarmament for all the armies of the earth to lay down their weapons of mass destruction. And it was during that time that Valiant Thor was on the scene, and the stranger who spent 3 years at the Pentagon. It was during that time when Kennedy was somewhat around, but Kennedy gave that speech about, lay down your arms, more or less. And then it was said that he had made a deal with the UN or something to, I don't know, speak on behalf of the military, to spearhead or something. I don't know how it went. But then on the day of his assassination, there were posters posted on poles and stuff calling him a traitor to the United States, a traitor to the Constitution, because of whatever he said. And then he was gone. I believe the deep state, and I believe that there was some kind of extraterrestrial interference that took place, probably some persuasion to, no, don't be so fighting and your weapons and stuff. What if these drones or something like that too? They say we gave you all these years to do this, to lay down your weapons and quit doing your fighting, and you will not listen. Now we got our drones or our ships all over your bases, and if you do anything, we're going to fire on you. They could happen like that, you all, if it's all around the world.
Still being looked at. I'd have to refer you to the UK MOD and US Air Forces in Europe. Janie.
Thank you, General. Two questions on South Korea and China. First question, on China's espionage using drone. China conducted indiscriminate espionage activities using drones on U.S. aircraft carriers and military facilities anchored in South Korea. What message do you want to send to China with?
Yes, it's kind of like the war. You do not want a war of the worlds. Was there a war of the worlds? This side of my nose is tickling, so somebody said something right, because this side of my nose only tickles when there is confirmation on the, like, let's say, positive side, the good side. That side over there is when the bad side is kind of upset about what's being said. Yeah, trust in Jesus, the 1984 Orwell. Let's look at this.
Poses a security threat to many allies.
What's the message to China? Look, Janie, I'm not going to get into any specific, operations overseas, other than to say, we take force protection, operation security very seriously. We value the partnerships that we have with our allies throughout the Indo-Pacific region and worldwide, as we work together towards our mutual security interests. And so wherever there is a potential threat, we of course will take measures to mitigate, but I'll just leave it there.
On South Korea, the security vacuum is in chaos due to the president suspended his work, and the military leadership also as well as suspended. Is there any disruption in the U.S.-South Korea alliance? And who is the Secretary Austin, the current dialogue partner?
Yeah, so right up front, I would say, and you've heard Secretary Austin say this, the alliance between the United States and the ROK is ironclad. We continue to remain committed to peace and security of the Korean Peninsula, and our combined defense posture remains strong. I know that General LaCamera spoke with the acting Republic of Korea president on Sunday. He emphasized the strength of the alliance and reaffirmed commitment to pre-planned training and exercises. He also spoke with the acting Minister of Defense on Thursday on the same topic. So don't have anything to read out right now in terms of potential phone calls with Secretary Austin and the acting Defense Minister in the future, but certainly we'll keep you updated. Let me go to Eunice.
Thank you very much, General. The Turkish Defense Minister says Ankara had proposed to Washington that they can assign 3 commander brigades to help fight Daesh, and also control prisons where ISIS militants and their families are held. Those are your biggest concerns.
So they've been asking questions about the drones, and now they're talking about other countries. In other words, you all are behind the drones. I wouldn't say that necessarily. I really wouldn't. I know there are some trains of thoughts in here that some people think the U.S. government is the one behind it. I mean, I'm not saying that there is not some bad factions within the government. If you read some of those articles that we read, that the reptilians are running the U.S. government, and the names that this article called out supposedly be satire, they called out the reptilians, and they said they were in charge of the U.S. government. So that would be bad, especially if those reptilians are deep state. So they need to get them out. In that aspect, I can see where there's a train of thought that they know, the government knows where they're at, and there are infiltrations in every branch of government, every military branch, they have been infiltrated by the enemy. And perhaps President Trump is going to, he already knows the ones he's going to get rid of. He's going to purge the system and drain the swamp. The DS lizards. That's right, Al Honey. Yeah. The yes, they did. They did daily events worldwide. They unalived somebody. They did. I want to hear that drone. But if you're just tuning in, he is.
We're not the only ones in this business when it comes to U.S. civil airspace. I'd certainly refer you to DHS and FAA on that front. As far as Kobani goes and, the ceasefire discussions between groups that are there and the SDF and others.
Against these names. We know Bashar al-Assad flew right away to Moscow, but rest of his team, do you have any idea how?
Drones here. I've never seen them flying around Virginia. And
that demilitarized zone.
Yeah, Carla, as I'm sure you can appreciate, I'm not going to make policy from the podium here. Obviously we continue to communicate very closely with the SDF as our defeat ISIS partner, but I'm not going to have any updates in terms of change of mission right now. Last question, Mike.
I know you're hoping for a drone question, so let me oblige you.
Okay.
You say that there are these sightings, why do most of the sightings seem to be around New Jersey? I mean, it's the Garden State and all, but what is so special about New Jersey that it's getting most of the attention from this? I've never seen drones here. I've never seen them flying around Virginia. And second question, drone-related question. I know we are building on you're developing the military's ability to detect drones. Are you also working on their ability to defeat drones in the air?
Yeah, absolutely. To answer your last question, and I would encourage you to go take a look at the counter unmanned strategy that we put out, just last week, that talks about the approach that we're going to take. And that includes the ability to defeat drones both kinetically and non-kinetically. And so, again, looking at places like Ukraine, we've seen the impact that drones can have on the battlefield. And so it's something that the department's taking very seriously. As for your question in terms of the preponderance of sightings, reported sightings in the New Jersey Northeast corridor, I can't answer that question, Mike. Again, personal experience, I have seen drones in D.C. I've seen drones, personal drones flying around. And as I've mentioned from this podium before, one of my close relatives is a private drone operator. And I'm sure some of that person's neighbors have often wondered, what that drone is doing. So, without taking a holistic snapshot of every single privately operated drone across the United States, some of which can be that big, some of which can be that big, it's hard to know specifically, why at this point in time. And again, as was highlighted in the joint statement, the current assessment explains what we think most of those are, to include piloted manned aircraft. The last thing I would say on it, again, completely understand the concerns, completely, will reinforce we're taking this seriously. It's sometimes when you focus on something, suddenly you notice more. And so, there's always the potential that because of the heightened awareness, now we're just more aware of this particular issue. But again, we'll continue to take this very seriously. We'll continue to take appropriate action if and when it's deemed that any of these drones near U.S. military installations pose a threat. But in the meantime, again, I think it's been very clear that we've not identified that any of these reported drone sightings were assessed as anomalous, or that it presented a national security or public safety risk over civilian airspace in New Jersey or other states in the Northeast. All right.
You're ruling out, Pat, that this is part of this testing corridor between Dover Air Force Base and Joint Base McGuire.
Yes. Thank you. All right.
Can I ask you a follow-up? I apologize. It's based off his question.
Now, you just came in the briefing room, so.
Negative. I came in.
You flew in on your drone? Yeah.
But thank you.
That's okay.
Normally my pattern, but. You talked about the military bases. Has there been a surge in counter detection equipment that has been sent to military bases? I'm aware that DHS has sent other equipment to the New Jersey area. Is any of that include DoD equipment, or is that strictly all DHS?
As I highlighted earlier for Picatinny, we did send some additional active and passive detection capabilities, as well as some counter drone capabilities. Those are the only ones, and Earl, those are the only ones I'm tracking right now. But again, if we need to look at other installations, we certainly can, but I don't have anything else to.
When you say active and passive, I mean, that is just strictly detection, or is actually to bring drones down?
So active and passive detection, different methods to be able to detect drones using different capabilities, right? So passive measures would essentially be, it just has the ability to receive signals without emitting signals, whereas active would be like radar. I bounce the signal off and it bounces back, right? And then separate from that would be counter UAS capabilities, things like let me make sure I get the name right here, like drone busters, which essentially, emits a signal which is able to interrupt the signal on the drone, which can affect its flight. So that's a methodology that we have that is able to essentially bring drones down non-kinetically should we need to do that.
And is any of the DHS equipment similar to this, or is that?
I mean, I'd refer you to them, but short answer is yes. Okay. All right. Thanks very much, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much. He appreciates it. That's what he said. Pentagon Press Secretary Pat Ryder. Yeah. Some
An award ceremony. Please rise for the arrival of
get 'em, Gina. I'm looking. Is it really a new drone busters? Yeah. You go, Maryland. Who is there a Maryland on here? Trump is going to give Zelensky a the drone wars. There is something called it's the Clone Wars is what it is. Yeah. Oh, Cheryl, I only slept probably 4 hours last night, if even that. I got up at 4 o'clock in the morning. But it's okay. Yeah. I wanted to look up drone wars. Oh, they already got it going on. Look. Drone wars. Drone wars. Transforming the conflict, law and policy. Drone wars in America. Well, that looks like it's from outer space. It does. I wouldn't. The problem I have with them saying it's Chinese, or some people are saying it's Chinese, is because they always say Chinese lanterns. Those aren't UFOs. They're Chinese lanterns. That's not a UFO. It's a Chinese balloon. A Chinese weather balloon. Why did the Chinese get blamed for everything? See, that's the easy go-to when they don't want to tell you exactly what's going on. They tried 3 times this year. Your sleep's been messed up? Yeah, since you got sick. Look at this. The drone wars. People are shooting down the drones before they shoot them. Oh, this looks scary. The drone wars. I have a drone, a patrol plane, I call it, that flies across the grid line. Why is this thing upside down like that? Isn't that strange? I'm not in there. Why would that be upside down like that? Who is that? Oh, it's a Microsoft Rewards. Okay, y'all. So if you got Clone Wars, Drone Wars, oh, they're not going to tell you. They're not. Oh. Did PA politician think Star Wars prop was a drone? Wow. Well, it could be. They will not to do anything when they use that excuse. Yeah. All kinds of wars, Al. Battlefield of the mind. Battlefield of the mind. I would like to, it's a form of warfare using robots. That's what they said. They're going to use the robots. Using robots, they include unmanned, combat aerial vehicles, weaponized commercial unmanned aerial vehicles, unmanned surface vehicles, the ground-based drones, United States, United Kingdom, Israel, China, South Korea, Iran, Iraq, Italy, France, India, Pakistan, Russia, Turkey, Ukraine are known to have drones. So that was General Pat Ryder, the Pentagon press secretary, giving his briefing. He did a lot of explaining without saying really what was going on because he can't tell. You're not allowed to tell. Being drone dressed as Star Wars X-Wings or something. I don't know what this is. You better hope that they're just whatever. Why can't they shoot them down? That's why they didn't want to shoot down the balloons, remember? The balloons weren't hurting anybody, so they didn't want to shoot them down. No, there was something in the clouds, is what it was. Something was in the clouds. Look. Their stunning reveal on mass drones, but it's not too stunning. There's really nothing stunning that he said. He just admitted it. There's drones in the sky. They're not DoD assets. Yeah, you can see. Ace drone unit hunting Russian soldiers. Look at that. Oh my goodness. I'm going to go. Thank you, Al, honey. If there's any other moderator, thank you. Yeah. Take a deep breath, you all. Yeah. The ghosts of Adwa. Ghost of Adwa. Ghosts of Adwa. African country. Are they drones? Are they drones? I don't know what it is. Murals, battles. It's just battles. Adwa. The African victory, the Battle of Adwa. I heard that all the countries in the whole world can fit into the continent of Africa. You remember that? They fit into the continent of Africa. Yeah. Yeah, your ghosts are demons and portals that need opened. Well, they're going to have them opened on the 24th. 5 spiritual portals. The last one is going to be open on January the 5th, the day before the January 6th Electoral College vote. Yeah. So I'm going to go. And with that being said, hello, wherever you are. My nose is in any part of the world. Hello, from my heart to yours, love you. Have a wonderful rest of your evening if I don't see you later. And I guess we'll see how this plays out. You'll probably hear something on the 21st. You probably will. And yeah, they'll let it out. Yeah. Good night. Thank you, Al.